Welcome to this explainer. I want you to close your eyes for just a second and try to picture the world in the 1880s. I mean, really picture it. There are no highways, no traffic lights, and absolutely no roar of engines. The entire world, every single delivery, every commute, moves at the exact speed of a horse. Dust, cobblestones, and hooves. That was just the everyday reality of human transportation. But today, we're exploring the absolute genesis of the gear, the literal birth of the automobile as we know it, the Benz Motorwagen. So when I say the very first car, what instantly pops into your head? Are you picturing something like a Ford Model T? Maybe a big boxy carriage with four wheels, a steering wheel, and a couple of doors? It's so incredibly easy for our modern brains to just project what we already know onto the past. But to truly understand the sheer leap of engineering that took place here, we have to completely wipe that modern blueprint from our minds. The reality of the first car was far stranger, much more fragile, and honestly, incredibly revolutionary. Section 1. The birth of the car. Enter Karl Benz. Okay, let's dive into this. We're heading back to Mannheim, Germany. Now, Benz wasn't just some casual tinker. He was a brilliantly obsessive engineer. He wanted to build an entirely new, integrated machine right from the ground up to serve as the world's first truly practical automobile. And the pace of innovation here is just staggering. In 1885, Benz actually builds the Motorwagen. It's real, it's physical, it exists. By 1886, he secures the most critical patent in automotive history, which is essentially him claiming the rights to a gas-powered vehicle. And then, just 2 years later in 1888, his wife, Bertha Benz, takes it on a historic road trip that absolutely changes everything. We'll get to her incredible story in just a moment, but first, let's take a look at the machine itself.
Moving on to Section 2. Meet the Benz Motorwagen, the three-wheeled wonder.
Seriously, forget the four-door sedans sitting in your driveway right now. The Benz Patent-Motorwagen is widely regarded by historians and engineers alike as the world's first practical automobile powered by an internal combustion engine. And that word practical is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. It means it wasn't just some incredibly heavy stationary steam engine, and it wasn't a novelty toy that exploded after 5 minutes. It was a functional, purpose-built vehicle designed to reliably move humans from point A to point B using gasoline combustion. Now, what's really interesting about this is this tiny, almost comical number, 0.75. That is the exact horsepower of Karl Benz's very first engine for the Motorwagen. Just 3/4 of a single horsepower. To put that into perspective for you, a standard modern lawnmower often has around 3 to 5 horsepower. But back in 1885, generating even a fraction of a horse's power purely from controlled explosions of liquid fuel inside a metal cylinder, that was nothing short of technological magic. Section 3. How did it actually work? Let's get into the mechanics of the machine. So how did you actually get this thing moving? It is an elegant, beautifully exposed 3-step process. First up, liquid fuel, which was a very light petroleum spirit back then, is introduced into the single-cylinder gasoline engine. Second, the engine generates power through internal combustion. Basically, a spark ignites the fuel, which pushes a piston. And third, that power is transferred mechanically, directly to the rear wheels using a system of belts and chains. Just imagine firing this thing up. You've got this giant exposed flywheel spinning, the incredibly loud pop, pop, pop of the combustion, the whole chassis vibrating. It was a totally raw, visceral mechanical experience. And here is where you really need to use your imagination. It was steered with a tiller, not a steering wheel. I want you to actively imagine navigating deeply rutted, bumpy dirt roads that were designed entirely for horse carts, mind you, while holding onto a wooden stick to steer. There's no power steering, there are no shock absorbers, and you're riding on only 3 tall, spindly wheels that look a lot like bicycle tires. Actually driving the Motorwagen required serious physical effort and absolute concentration. And this brilliantly illustrates the immense friction between innovation and society. At first, people were utterly terrified. They viewed this machine as a dangerous, fire-spitting, noisy monster that scared their horses and completely threatened their way of life. But in stark contrast to that fear stands Karl Benz's unshakable vision. He knew this wasn't a monster. He knew for a fact that it was the absolute future of transport. However, just having the vision wasn't enough, was it? He needed to prove it to the world. Which brings us to Section 4, Bertha Benz's historic drive, the ultimate proof of concept. So Karl was a genius engineer, absolutely. But he was also a perfectionist, and he was really hesitant to market his invention. His wife, Bertha, realized that if they didn't actually show the public what this car could do, the whole invention would just fade into obscurity. So she went rogue. Without telling her husband or even getting permission from the authorities, Bertha packed up her 2 teenage sons and embarked on what is now famously recognized as the first long-distance journey in automotive history. She drove a 65-mile route from Mannheim to Pforzheim. The crucial point here is that this wasn't just a joyride, not at all. It was a massively daring, high-stakes marketing stunt and a field test rolled into one. It was exactly the catalyst needed to prove to a terrified public that the automobile was genuinely practical. But hey, a 65-mile road trip in 1888 was no walk in the park, and Bertha had to get incredibly creative on the fly. First off, she ran out of fuel. There were no gas stations, obviously, so she stopped at a local pharmacy in Wieslach to buy Ligron, a cleaning solvent. That effectively makes that specific pharmacy the world's very first gas station. Later on, when a fuel line got clogged, she couldn't exactly call for a tow truck. Instead, she used her own hat pin to clear the blockage. And when the wooden brakes started to wear down on the steep hills, she stopped at a cobbler and had him nail leather onto the brake blocks. She literally invented brake pads right there on the side of the road. I mean, she was brilliant. Let's move to Section 5, Changing the World Forever, the dawn of the modern auto industry. Bertha's incredibly successful journey proved that the concept worked. It brought immense publicity, it generated actual sales, and it gave Karl the practical, real-world feedback he needed to improve the design. From that fragile, 3-wheeled machine producing just 0.75 horsepower, an entire global revolution was sparked. The Benz Motorwagen laid the fundamental groundwork for the modern automobile industry we know today. It completely changed how our cities are designed, how goods are transported, and how humans connect across vast distances. Think about it. Every single car on the road today shares a direct, unbroken lineage right back to Karl's tiny workshop in Mannheim and Bertha's courage out there on that dirt road. Which leaves us with this final thought. It has been roughly 140 years since the motor wagon first sputtered to life. We've gone from a tiller-steered tricycle to sleek electric cars and autonomous vehicles navigating our cities using artificial intelligence. So I have to ask you, if human ingenuity can take us from 0.75 horsepower to self-driving cars in just over a century, what on earth is transportation going to look like in another 140 years? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep exploring and keep questioning the road ahead.